Let's look at an example, a neighborhood, for instance. The Denver Post ran a story on conflict resolution between neighbors. The article is titled, "Neighborhood Scraps Don't Have to Go Nuclear." Can you tell us how the Conflict Center became involved and what kind of resolution that you came up with?
That was one that there were several organizations here in the city who were working on that. Community Mediation Concepts is the type of organization that we refer people to for mediation work. But it's, the lessons that are learned there are ones that are really good. And those are the kinds of things one of our staff members advised on that program. Again, what you want to do is prevention. We believe that in almost all cases, if you can do work up front to prevent a situation from escalating, that's what you ought to be doing. So that story that you referred to talks a lot about building relationships with your neighbors. One of our things that we talk about is in conflict management, you not only want to solve the problem, you want to build a relationship. When you're working with little kids and someone says, well, he took the ball on the playground, well, what did you do? Well, I hit him and took the ball back. Well, that solved the problem, but it didn't do anything to build the relationship. And I think if you kind of move that forward to all of us as adults, it's the same sort of thing. Violence is not ineffective. People use violence effectively all the time, but it doesn't do much in terms of building relationships and keeping things peaceful. So in the situation with neighbors who were, as I recall, there was some disagreement over a piece of yard art or something. They had never bothered to meet each other, and then somebody put this up, and then all of a sudden, rather than going over and discussing it, they escalated it by calling in the police officers or bringing the law or filing a lawsuit. That's rarely the best way to go about this. And so what we encourage people to do is find ways to get to know your neighbors, get to know the people that you are close to, whether at work, your neighbors, your family, people you go to church with, people you go to school with, get to know them and open those lines of communication. And then it's much easier if you just start, instead of escalating it all the way up, start at a lower level and keep it at a more sane personal level.
Do you ever have families as clients, perhaps a conflict between a teen and the rest of the family? Does the Conflict Center work with faith-based organizations, law enforcement, corporations, and so forth?
We do all of those, Kenny. The first one you mentioned there, teens and their parents, we have several programs for teens who are having trouble handling anger or conflict or making bad decisions, which is pretty typical of what I did as a teenager. Most of us do as teenagers. We don't make good critical decisions. So we have a class for that. And with all of those classes that we do, we have every other class that we involve the parents. Frequently, we discover that the reasons that kids are acting the way they are is because of the dynamic between the parent and the child. People don't necessarily always get that you don't parent the same at 16 as you do at 6. And so we bring the parents in to try to help them understand what's normal child development, what's going on here, how can you work with that more effectively. So yeah, we do work with families. Those are actually some of the more fun programs that we do. You get to see the parents. What's always interesting, a lot of times these are court ordered, and the court will order the parents to attend these classes, and the parents come in grumbling the first night, I didn't do anything, I don't know why I have to be here. By the third night, the third week when they're there, which is their second class, they're saying, how come we don't get to come to all the classes? We're learning so much here. And we always say, well, the kids wouldn't have a chance to talk about you if you were here every time. So, which is actually literally true. We try to give the kids a chance to vent without their parents being there. But those are really the fun classes because parents and kids start communicating in ways that they hadn't before or haven't for a number of years. And that's always refreshing and fun to see. Kids hearing that their parents do care about them, that they do love them, and vice versa. The parents see that their kids really are trying and are not trying to just be totally in rebellion, although that's a fairly normal behavior for teenagers.
Let's give out that website again. It's conflictcenter.org, conflictcenter.org. I want to talk a little bit about some of the, or any events or situations coming up that you would like us to promote for you. But first, I want to give you a chance to add to this discussion anything that you believe is important that we may have overlooked. I get the feeling that we've only scratched the surface of what the Conflict Center is all about.
Well, Kenny, earlier in addition to asking whether we work with families, you'd ask whether we work with faith groups or police departments or businesses. And the answer in all cases is yes. We have several programs. Our largest program, and historically the program that we started with, was a program we took into schools to help school personnel, administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, school lunchroom people, bus drivers, learn how to handle conflict, learn the skills of conflict management and effective communication. And we have a whole curriculum for that a school can bring in and implement that program. In addition, we work a lot with other nonprofit entities, their clients and their staff, in terms of how to handle and keep conflict from escalating in their workplaces. And we can do that with any kind of a business. We work more with small businesses and nonprofits than we do with big corporations, but the skills are applicable at all levels. So I did want to emphasize that, we do provide trainings, work, consultation services to really across the board to almost anybody who wants those services.
Okay, contact information is at conflictcenter.org, and you're located downtown Denver.
Yes, we're at 41st and Tejon, so it's kind of between downtown and the Regis campus.
What about any events coming up that you would like KLOVE to promote for you?
Yeah, Kenny, on Saturday, June 8th, we're having our annual garden tour. It's the Enchanted Gardens of Northwest Denver. We've been doing this almost since we moved over to our address there in North Denver. And it's one that we collaborate with the volunteers and neighbors in the community to host people coming through and seeing the various gardens that our neighbors have put together. And it's just a fun day, runs all day, and then usually there's an after-dinner party at a sculpture garden. So it's really a fun event. We'd encourage people to come out. At that time, they can see the center, certainly talk to our staff, get any questions that they have about our program answered, but there's a silent auction and a chance to go see some really pretty yards and gardens in Northwest Denver.
Wow, what could be more peaceful than looking at gardens or vegetation, especially on a nice day in Denver?
Absolutely.
We want to thank you for coming in, Ron. We appreciate this discussion on anger management. It's, if we're honest, it's an issue that may impact or does impact pretty much all of us at some time or another, and some of us more than others. Ron Ludwig is the Executive Director of the Conflict Center, downtown Denver. The website, again, is www.conflictcenter.org. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Ron.
Thank you so much, Kenny. It's been a real pleasure.
And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. My email address is closerlook@klove.com. That's closerlook@klove.com. For Closer Look, I'm Kenny Noble Cortez. Thanks for listening.